Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And since we're getting so very close to St. Patrick's Day, we are doing the entire Leprechaun series. So today we are doing the 2003 film Leprechaun Back to the Hood. Here is your trivia question for today. There is a part of the leprechaun that is revealed for the first time in this film. What part is that? The answer will be at the end of this episode. So, our film starts off with us seeing an individual named Father Jacob fighting for his life against the demonic leprechaun. Father Jacob has managed to hide the treasure belonging to the leprechaun, and during the fight, he does manage to even send the leprechaun back down to hell, but unfortunately does not survive the battle. We now jump ahead by 1 year, where we meet some of our main characters. Emily, Lisa, and Jamie, who are all good friends and dealing with the ups and downs of living in Los Angeles. We also do eventually meet our fourth main character, Rory, who just so happens to be Emily's ex. So one day, Emily and Lisa go and see a psychic. The psychic, named Esmeralda, notifies Emily that soon she will stumble upon a vast amount of fortune, but it is connected to evil and she should not accept it. So, probably only a few days later, our friends decide to have an outdoor barbecue where Jamie invites Rory, unbeknownst to Emily. Emily, who's frustrated by this, decides to go for a walk and unfortunately falls through a hole in the ground. Now, while down in this dark, secret chamber, Emily stumbles upon a treasure chest filled with gold coins, and of course, deciding not at all to listen to anything that psychic told her, decides to disperse the wealth amongst her and her three friends. This, of course, summons the leprechaun back into existence, who's not only out for gold, but also out for blood. So, will our group of friends be able to escape from this horrifying creature, or will he one by one find each of them and gain his pound of flesh? This movie was written and directed by Stephen Aram Louis. Rob Spira, who directed the last film, was originally going to come back for this one, but his idea is he wanted to do it during spring break, where it was either set in Venice Beach or on an island. But due to the home video sales of the last one, the studios decided to insist that this one also be set in an inner city. Spira decided to turn that down as he didn't want to just rehash the same story. This was the first Leprechaun film where Trimark Pictures was no longer the distributor and it was just Lionsgate Films. This was also the very last appearance of Warwick Davis as the Leprechaun in this movie franchise. Aram Louis decided to change up the outfit for the Leprechaun this time around, as he wanted him to look a little bit more demonic and a bit Victorian. It was during the filming of this movie that the proposed idea of doing a Leprechaun Candyman crossover was suggested. Tony Todd immediately turned down the idea. By the way, in case you were curious, there actually were multiple other ideas for other Leprechaun movies that never got made. Here are just some of the ones that I found interesting: Leprechaun in the Old West, Leprechaun on a pirate ship, Leprechaun at the White House, a crossover of Leprechaun and the Wishmaster, Vamprechaun, which is apparently a hybrid of a vampire and a leprechaun. And at one point, there was even discussion of giving him his own television series where the leprechaun would travel throughout the country trying to get his gold back each episode. Were you aware, by the way, that Warwick Davis also did appear in another Leprechaun movie not connected to this franchise? So in 1998, which would have actually been right about in the middle of the actual franchise itself, Warwick appeared in a family-friendly film called A Very Unlucky Leprechaun. Originally, Stephen Aram Louis wanted the character of Esmeralda to be played by Eartha Kitt. She unfortunately was unavailable. The body count for this film is 10. This includes Father Jacob, who was clawed by the leprechaun, the stoner, who was impaled with a bong, Doria, who got her neck snapped, Lisa, who was stabbed in the gut with claws, Chanel, who had her jaw ripped out by the leprechaun, officers Thompson and Whitaker, who Thompson had a flashlight impaled into his abdomen, and Whitaker had his leg ripped off, Watson, who had his heart ripped out, Cedric, who had his throat slashed, and Esmeralda, who was destroyed by magic. So when it comes to the film, Leprechaun Back to the Hood, first of all, what's interesting is, just like all the rest of the Leprechaun films so far, this actually has no connection to any of the previous ones, even though the one that came right before it also took place in the hood. Now, as for my opinion on this movie, it's my least favorite in the series, and that's mainly due to the fact that I feel that it just has a weak storyline and confusing character connections. So I'm going to give this one a 1 out of 5. Now, as for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode, there is a part of the leprechaun that is revealed for the first time in this film. What part is that? So, throughout the series, we've always seen his ugly, wrinkly face and his claw like hands, but for the first time, we get to see his extremely nasty feet. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews, and if there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments.